particular organization where they did follow a 40-hour a week written rule that you need to be there for so many hours. There was an expectation basis your level that you have to be there, you have to do this, why are you leaving. And I know there was a time, I all employees, all people who work in corporates can relate to that. The minute you pick up your bag, everybody looks at you as if it's a kind of a crime in spite of the fact that you have actually finished your work.
Right.
So there was always this thing, and having worked for many years, very many long years across various organizations, this is something which is indeed a topic which should be discussed. Personally, I do have certain views, and I'm sure as a clinical psychologist, you get to meet a lot of people who can also vouch for how burnouts are real. And you've seen, I'm sure you can share your, we'll as we continue the discussion, we'll share. And I have seen a lot of people in the process that, while wanting to outperform, while wanting to always be the yes person,
Right.
wanting to be that, I'm there, I'm always there, you can count on me for everything. Their personal lives have not always been perfect. There is nothing known as perfection, but I mean to say more peaceful, more contented. People have struggled with health. I have seen a lot of people suffering from severe obesity because of the erratic work schedules. And of course, everything finally leads to feeling not emotionally up and running. So, these also, maybe I have not been liked for it many times. I'm sure about it. And I'm sure, like me, because of this overwork culture and this hustle mindset, we do feel a certain level of, wanting to prove ourselves always. And that finally leads us to be discontented with our own selves.
Right.
Right?
Absolutely.
So,
I mean,
yeah.
in my sessions also, whenever I've talked with people who, in certain workplaces, there's so much of burnout, and the burnout is such that you are losing your actual capacity to even function at that
Absolutely.
level. So many, when we put such emphasis on the number of working hours, and then we are asking them to, just sit on the desk and do not just their job, sometimes even other people's job. It leads to so much of burnout and so much of health crisis when it comes to chronic conditions. And not just them, but it also affects their other relationships, how much present they are with others.
Absolutely. And what you rightly said, that it is just not about me, because I don't function as like like that one piece. I am part of a bigger picture. So there has been times I remember, I was way younger, and there was this particular organization I was working, and the time was extremely tiring, I would say, because we can't forget the travel time also.
Right.
That's also a part, right? So there was a lot of travel, there was a lot of field work, there was a lot of work pressure. I was doing literally two people's job in that particular organization. And I remember I used to come back and I used to kind of have a kind of a meltdown. So there were days, which is like exceptional in my career, but in that particular, those few months, I literally had meltdowns because of it was taking a toll on my health. And that was the first time I was diagnosed with gynecological issue also. And it all happened because of the kind of stress, erratic eating and everything which happened. So with that very thing, let's jump into a few questions, because I am sure a lot of our viewers, because I think this is going to go live stream. Hopefully, it will be simultaneously be played on YouTube and LinkedIn. Um, can you just tell me from your own experience, Richa? I think I have forgotten to introduce Richa in all this conversation. Richa is a clinical psychologist, and we are so pleased to have her. She has completed her master's in philosophy, that is MPhil, in clinical psychology from Amity University, and holds a post graduation from Bethune College. And she also runs her own, company organization with Self Pivot, which is about, I am understanding, is more about mental health, and helping people find, the right balance. Pivot is, and she has been there for the last 4 5 years, if I am right. So, and she has helped many people, and it is our privilege that we could have you. And guess what? I met her at one of our networking events, and that's how I got to know about the wonderful work Richa is doing. And welcome to the platform, Richa. So I'll jump into the first question for you. So my first question will be, what are the biggest challenges professionals in urban India face when striving for work-life balance?
So I feel like a lot of it is, of course, individual, but a lot of it is more how our society functions and the systemic change, difficulties that happen in the workplace itself. So speaking of like conditioning that we have all grown up with, this whole idea that you're supposed to work all the time, there shouldn't be any time wasted. And if you're not being productive, you're not doing good enough. So a lot of people who come in sessions are, and I wouldn't say even I have been, target of that kind of mentality, where you constantly feel guilty if you're not doing enough. And you're constantly asking yourself this question, am I doing enough? So as a result, you're just tied up with work, even if probably it's not really leading to some kind of efficiency maybe. Another kind of thinking, another kind of mentality is that of perfection. Perfectionism is something I would call it a disease, honestly, because people are just striving to have the most ideal condition. I should be the most ideal performer. I can't make any mistakes. So when you are constantly putting yourself to that expectation that I should be always perfect, even a slight waver, you will start feeling like a failure. So the work just doesn't remain about work. It becomes about your worth, and it becomes about how much you're putting in, how many hours. Again, it's the same thing, where we are not focusing on, let's say, quality or efficiency, because we can't, because the idea of work is so much now tied with your own sense of worth that you can't really separate the two factors.
Got it.
There's another aspect of that. Boundary setting is not looked at very nicely, especially in our culture. When a person comes up and says no, or when a person says that this is not my responsibility, this is yours, and this is where my limit is, that is not very much appreciated. So that lack of boundary setting, or that shame that is associated with boundary setting, doesn't really gives much window for us to have like a work-life balance, right? And when it comes to like systemic things that are there in the workplace, there's a lack of psychological safety. I have many clients who do tell me about the kind of managers that they have, where there's no window for, let's say, feedback, or there's a constant micromanagement, or responsibility is given like at the last hour. So there's a lot of threat even to share an opinion, even to express that there's something that's bothering them. So there's a lot of threat when it comes to being yourself in the workplace. And now you combine it with the insecurity with the job that, a lot of us are having that insecurity that I might be fired. We don't know what's going to happen the next day. Now you combine all of it, it becomes a perfect recipe for anybody to not being able to perform and to experience a lot of turmoil.
Yeah, and I think it also adds to the perfect recipe to be exploited.
Yes,
I think
definitely.
because
Definitely.
as I say, for me it's very easy to speak on this particular subject, having worked for many years. Having
Mm.
been through various levels of career and having
Mm.
had various supervisors, various administration,
Mm.
management, I completely agree with you that in our country, apart from some very renowned organizations, thankfully I had the good luck, I would say, to work with some very good places.
Mm.
Saying so, also,
Mm.
the feedback mechanism is absolutely not there, and
Mm.
more time. I think I was just studying. You can also kind of put some inputs around it. I read this article about emotional contagion. Okay, so
Mhm.
supervisors actually come to the office with a foul mood, and that kind of resonates with the entire team in milliseconds.
Mm.
And then what happens is that this particular person is thinking, oh my God, my supervisor is not in a good mood. Let me work those
Mm.
extra 2 hours just to
Mm.
get that, that extra point. So I
Yes.
think somewhere, the way you explained it kind of goes back to the very fact that we work in that pattern. So
Mm.
not something like, because our self-worth is kind of here at
Yes.
stake. So,
Yes.
it's not something which not every time I would say an organization is always saying, because
Mhm.
as I
Mhm.
say this, I can say this for a fact that many organizations, even today, post
Mm.
this COVID pandemic,
Mm.
they value
Mm.
productivity over work hours, and big
Yes.
organizations generally do.
Mm.
See, there will be instances where
Mm.
you would want to kind of probably work a little extra because maybe
Mm.
you are behind time or you need to submit certain things,
Mm.
and it
Mhm.
happens maybe
Yes.
7 days in a month. It's
Mm.
something very normal. It's not
Mm.
something not, and majorly, for a lot of finance team, I have always seen
Mm.
that because they are always running short
Right.
of time because of certain
Mm.
regulatory processes and all.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
saying so, I also have a next question leading that way, like post the pandemic,
Mm.
we have kind of realized the importance.
Mm.
I worked in corporate still before the pandemic, so I have
Mm.
seen that life. Now, when I run
Mm.
an organization,
Mm.
so for me, I understand the other, thing of doing, being with employees, handling the teams and all. So tell me something. There has been a shift, okay?
Mm.
So, and that's where the discussion is all about.
Mm.
It was there, but it was never discussed this aloud. So,
Mm.
70 hour or 90 hour, now
Mm.
has become a debatable topic.
Mm.
So, we have risen to the fact that it is important
Mm.
to take care of ourselves.
Mm.
But contradictory, there is a lot of things happening at our work.
Mm. Mm.
So my next question is, can technology be both a blessing and a curse for
Mm.
work-life balance?
Mm.
And how do we find the right balance?
Right. Technology is really like, of course, there are
Yeah.
benefits, and the benefits is in terms of convenience and mobility. And that is something that we are all aware of, that
Yeah.
how it can be helpful. The way that it doesn't help us is when we start doing things which is not something our brains are designed for.
Mm.
So, for example, there are 100 tabs open
Mm.
on your laptop and
Yeah.
you're trying to achieve everything at the same time. So, we're trying to multitask, which is not really something which is the most ideal place for
Yeah.
efficiency,
Yeah.
right? So, with that, the boundaries have become a lot blurred. We are also not sure when the time ends, that okay, now
Yeah.
this is my work is over and now rest the other aspects of my life are active.
Mm.
Because even when, let's say, we are not working and the technology is not used for work purpose, right,
Mm.
we are still constantly
Yeah.
glued to our phones. So we are constantly
Mm.
working. We don't realize that our brains are actually active and it's still processing a lot of
Mm.
information. The the access to many things, of course, that has improved our
Yeah.
awareness of things. But we are now getting access to things which we actually perhaps don't need
Yeah.
also.
True.
And we are constantly looking what others
Yeah.
are doing, and we're also comparing in the process. So
Mm.
at the same time, you're working, there is constant engagement of the brain, and there are certain emotional repercussions which are coming at the same time. So
Right.
all of this, if you combine all of it, if we are just talking about work and not talking about quality of life, work is also
Yeah.
affected by that, you know.
Right, right. You are absolutely right. Like when you say that our minds are continuously, working overtime,
Hmm.
I know for a fact that many of my, friends, people in my circle, say example, they come back,
Hmm.
they do not have work, but
Right.
they still feel the urge that let me be a little productive, let me do this.
Hmm. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah. Exactly.
saying
Hmm.
so, when I now on being on the other side,
Hmm.
I think now when you say this, kind of investing in personal growth where you are studying
Hmm.
is very different
Hmm.
than, when you're watching just for the sake of watching.
Right.
So now when I say example, when I'm reading certain articles which are
Hmm.
related to my work, that is valuable because I am looking in terms of understanding business, understanding human psyche, or just for the
Hmm.
sake of personal growth. But at the same time, say one thing leads to another. That's how the algorithms work, and I end up probably watching something which
Hmm.
may be around that particular subject, but uh, is taking me away to that
Hmm.
digital world where my brain is continuously thinking and overthinking. So finally, there's a lot of fatigue.
Hmm.
So
Hmm. And it
now when
affects the sleep. It affects
absolutely, and
lifestyle.
you are right when you say so. If I am doing so many things together,
Hmm.
I feel tired, and
Hmm.
I'm sure everybody feels the same way because,
Hmm.
as you correctly mentioned, that trying to kind of rest our brains and
Hmm.
not constantly working is very important.
Yes. Yes.
So,
Definitely.
to all the viewers, it's very important to also shut down those machines. Take a clean break, read a book, pursue your hobbies. And that's what we actually propagate on our platform, Searching Soulmate. So
Hmm.
it's searching soul, like understanding myself and making friends. So as human beings, it's so important to stay connected. So maybe go back to this we always say, go back to those old world ways where you just step out and go to the nukkar ka dukan and just have something and have to speak to somebody and come back even if you don't know the person,
Hmm.
because
Hmm.
that way at least you're a little, those 15 minutes you're away from technology and you're
Yeah.
probably
Hmm.
meeting a
Hmm.
human face, hearing a human
Hmm.
voice.
Hmm.
So that leads me to the next question.
Hmm.
So, like, as an organization, like organizations do have their protocols, they
Hmm.
have goals to meet, there are revenue numbers. Can you suggest to organizations and workplaces how they can support their employees in achieving better work-life harmony?
Hmm. Hmm. So, of course, a lot of changes at the policy level, but also in your regular communication that happens with the employees. So, for instance, role clarity. A lot of it's not very clear as to what is the expectation from the person and where that expectation ends, where that role ends. So there has to be clear-cut role clarity. You know, there has to be clear communication of these leave policies, for
Yeah.
instance, right? And very important, what I feel is that a leader needs to know how to provide psychological safety. It is a very important indices, and having an understanding about mental health will not only improve their life, it would improve employees' lives also. And when I say communication, if you ask your employees what they need as a support so that they can function optimally, there'll be very good ideas coming from there. You know, I mean, it will not just be about leaves. Ki give me holiday. No, it wouldn't be. Sometimes maybe the need is that okay, I need a mentor, or I need to maybe I'll perform better in this role rather than this. Maybe I need some team support. I need to delegate something. So when there is open communication about these things, we are automatically creating a space because we're taking that feedback into account.
Right.
You know? And this whole idea that employees don't want to work, that's not true.
Absolutely.
Everybody would want to work if you provide them value, and if their work is given value and they're given that autonomy to show what they can contribute.
You are absolutely right about this. There has to be a little bit of, responsibility, which is like autonomous, which they can do on their part. And you are very right. I have a feeling that many times it's not the company, okay? Having work, it is not the company. The company never judges you. But it's the people who kind of, build the company, and these people sitting in various positions. So somebody might be very good, and the person might be kind of encouraging the team to, kind of take leaves, go on that much needed, I would say, a skill building program. But then there are people in organizations where somewhere their own discontentment in life, has a huge upheaval on the teams they handle. So, it's like a cyclic thing, because what is happening here is that a lot of the organizations are really having worked in so many. I have never felt that it is a bad policy in the organization. Many times, I like one of my organizations had a 40-hour week policy. And we would happily, like I would happily even work on weekends, travel, and kind of even when I was in the city, I used to go for meetings. I used to kind of meet people, because what I had at that point of time was a lot of flexibility. So I could kind of decide what I want to do, what is important, basis the kind of the numbers or the KPIs or whatever you say in the corporate language I had to meet. So for me, I was like, it was actually empowering. So I think what most organizations should look at is empowering their employees, because you are perfectly right when you say that 99% employees are not the ones who would want to not work.
Right.
They in fact I can tell for a fact that there was a time when in one of my organizations where I had a little lesser work, and I used to like literally beg for work. Please give me some work, because I'm not being able to justify my coming to the office every day. And I'm sure like I've heard this story from a lot of my friends from the IT industry saying that, like when they are benched, when the new project is coming, they are like, we don't want this. We really want to get back to work. So I think we all love working, because, that adds value. Like, it's something we are working for. But somewhere, what actually kind of happens is that until and unless everybody is empowered, is given the right to voice, that this is not okay, this is okay, can I have a little freedom around this, can I do it my way, and without being judged if it is not coming out rightly. I think that is when there would be I would say more people feeling more comfortable and giving in their roles. And then the hours don't matter really, because then it's all fun at work. Like it's so much fun to have a good team to work with a good supervisor to work with, sharing values of the organization. But are we aligning them with those bigger goals? Because my personal dreams also need to be aligned. Are we those bigger pictures? I think with that, my next question would be a little different, because when we discuss all these things, there is also something where there are various levels in the organization. Okay. And with these various levels, there are also various professions. There are various differences in the income brackets. So the question over here is like, is it a myth for certain professionals in particular income brackets in urban India to achieve that work-life balance because of the money aspect, because of the role aspects, so can you share some thoughts around it? How to manage it, maybe?
I mean, of course, I would still not call it a myth. It definitely looks different for different professions, and especially the ones which are in like a crisis profession where they're constantly dealing with humans. There's always, extra workload, and
Yes.
it is difficult. It is definitely difficult. And if you are leading an organization, then that brings with it its own challenges, because obviously a lot is at stake for you. For employees, of course, again, there'll be days when there'll be, more demands from you. But if there is a just, like a standard practice at least going on for work-life balance, as in there's standard practice in terms of how many hours you put in, or there's flexibility, then even if there are days where it's a bit difficult, it's okay, because at least there's a standard practice going on, and then there are days where it's up and down, which I think everybody understands. It's not something that people are wary of. There is a general practice of, fairness, basically. That is what I feel. And work-life balance is not a fixed quantity. It's not a fixed thing that this is how I define work-life balance, and this is how it should look every day. It is not like that. Every day, the nature of work-life balance seems different. Some days we want to put in more work.
True.
And there are days where we feel like I cannot function today. So for even our own self, the definition of work-life balance keeps changing, and it keeps shifting even throughout the week, I would say. So it's definitely not a myth. It can be challenging for certain professions. There are certain professions where it's also about survival on a daily basis, right? So obviously it differs for different populations, but even then it's not a myth. There are days where it can be balanced off, and there are also different versions of how we want our life to look like when we are working.
Right. I think you have actually pointed out the that word where how do we want our lives to look like. I think many times it is that particular person's idea about work, his goals, his vision, and what he feels that he's wanting to achieve. Now, every day will not be the same. That's also equal. Some of the roles require a serious amount of time, because I have a doctor friend. I remember once he told me that his shifts were like 36 hours at a stretch, because that is how, because in a hospital with the patient to nurse and doctor's ratio, the work hours can be very tiring. Similarly, as you mentioned, some of the professions where you need to be, we always see like in the hospitality industry, right? Or in like the police who are working overtime during the festive seasons to traffic moving, people safe. So there are times when even if the entire world is celebrating, your work requires you to be kind of more, be there, spend those extra hours, and kind of serve people, help people, part and parcel. And finally, that one word that, like, do we see ourselves, wanting to balance is actually the real,
bigger.
So, so So if you, I have to really share this. So when many years back, so there were like simultaneously, I had applied for some positions, and I had actually got like I would say three, jobs in one go. So there was one particular job which was really good, was paying very well. But somewhere I felt that at that juncture, I also wanted to concentrate a little bit on my own personal growth in terms of some education, in terms of, refining my skill sets. So the kind of work which came along with the package and the position, I would be kind of stuck. Like, of course, when you take the responsibility, you'll also need to, kind of fulfill it. And I was quite young, and I actually took the job which had way lesser package. I really felt it was more creative. It would allow me to be me, because there was more empowerment in the way the organization functioned. And I would be able to pursue my own personal growth in terms of skill sets, learning new things. And believe me, that one decision changed my life. So when you say that how, choosing, so it's not always choosing what looks right to the world, but also
Yes.
what is right to me.
Exactly. Definitely.
So, could you suggest some practical tips or strategies that have worked for others in achieving better work-life integration and, kind of personal accountability? How does it play into that bigger, picture as a continuation from the previous question?
So yeah, like you mentioned, it is about that choice, right? So the way I look at my life and the perspective that I hold, how my life should look like, that has a definite role to play. So we give this exercise, and this is really my favorite exercise, which is a value-based approach. So every goal that we have, there is a value that goes behind it. So for instance, if health is an important value for you, you will very naturally maybe include exercises in your daily routine. That's your goal, but the value behind was maybe fitness, maybe health. If you value community a lot, so you will ensure that you'll spend some time with your friends or family, or you'll find a way to communicate outside of work also, right? So the kind of values that you choose helps you curate the kind of life that you want. If you feel that, for me, it doesn't matter whether I am working all the time, but if I am being able to do the smart work, and I'm efficient, and that is what matters to me, naturally my attention would go on to this idea that what would be the best approach, which would also save me some time, right?
Right.
So the more you question about what kind of life you want and the kind of values that are important, very naturally they will find the space in your life in terms of goals. And it really doesn't matter whether you have a lot of time to achieve those goals, or place those important values in your life. It doesn't really matter the amount of time. If that value is important, you'll be naturally inclined to bring that ingredient in. Right. So that is one exercise that has helped a lot of people to make general decisions, but definitely to achieve work-life balance. That's something. And I just realized I said the word achieve with work-life balance, which is not the case. I mean, it doesn't have to be that way. So that is one thing. Something that really is a very basic strategy, which is it's also called one mindfulness. That when you're doing, you should just do one thing at a time. So, like we discussed in terms of technology also, that keep all these tabs closed, do what you're just doing right now. So when we are mindful and when we are just engaging all our senses into one thing, it's a really healthy exercise. Not only just to improve your performance, it also helps to relieve a lot of stress, because now your entire system is focused on just one single thing, right? And it happens with practice. We start including these daily practices, even like mindful eating.
Yeah.
That when you're eating, you're just eating, you're not doing anything.
Mm.
So with small such exercises on a daily basis, you are able to really practice mindfulness very well. You know, another important thing that I have noticed is that we shoot for the most ideal condition. So, for instance, if I one day decided I want to be physically fit, if I'm not going to the gym, that means I'm not going to do anything. So we are either looking for all or none. We are looking for the ideal condition to do something. If we stop that and we just do small effort in every department of our life, very naturally we'll be able to include everything.
True.
Right? So starting small is very important.
Yeah.
Another very important strategy is boundary setting. And when we talk about boundary setting, it's not just about other people, that I am telling you that this is my time constraint or this is where my responsibility ends. I'm not just talking about boundaries with other people, but boundaries with ourselves as well. If we are to develop like a consistent habit, let's say of sleeping, that I want to sleep at the same time and wake up at the same time every day, that would require for me to hold on my impulses also. So that would require for me to set boundaries with myself as well.
Right.
If I am not ready to do somebody else's job for them, I also need to hold that guilt feeling in, and despite feeling uncomfortable, I need to draw that line.
Right.
So these are, I feel, these are the major heads. Besides that, of course, asking for help, delegating your tasks, keeping a record for yourself of what kind of work that you're doing and how much time you're spending. What it does is that not only it gives you like a picture that okay, these are the things that I'm doing and this is where I want to bring some change, but also acts like insurance. When you know that this is what I've provided to this work. So these are, I feel, some of the major heads. I cannot end the list of strategies without including body in it. It is very important to understand that body holds a lot of wisdom and it will give you all the information that you'll ever need. So if your body is saying that this is my time where I feel very energetic, we can use that information. If the body is telling me this is the time when I need to rest, I need to stop doing everything, because that means that my body is not supporting the activity that I'm doing right now.
Right.
So if we do this practice every day, when we check in with our body and understand what it needs at different periods of time, and we provide it with what it needs, it will give us back with so much of reward.
Yeah. Right. So I think you've kind of covered ways to kind of balance, like kind of sharing a lot of ideas around, from starting from boundary setting to seeking help to choosing, efficiency over hard work, listening to the body and being mindful. So being mindful is just being there, being aware about what is happening around you, being part of the conversations with all your focus, eating with the focus, keeping the phone away so that, your mind is there. And I think, as a society, we are quite pro at multitasking and we take pride in but somewhere I think that is actually now taking a little, kind of a little it's kind of a little backfiring, because times have changed. And with that, in spite of our multitasking nature, we will also need to understand, our goals, our vision, our values, and how fast we want to reach somewhere. Are we willing to kind of, probably spend that extra time and reach there and then probably take a break, or maybe continue it for the next 10 years and then probably decide. So, it's like for you, for each individual to kind of make a call, a prudent call for themselves about what they value more, like, what is. So to me, it has always been a productivity over time. And like when I say time, it is not time bound. It is more about being efficient,
Hmm.
having,
Hmm.
deliverables being delivered on time.
Hmm. Hmm.
And that's what I think, as organizations, we should hold value, and giving a defined job role,
Hmm.
making people understand what is needed
Hmm.
for
Hmm.
particular. It may change, but with that change, it should also be intimated to that person that this is the change, right? So this is
Hmm.
what.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah,
So
definitely.
I think, if as organizations, these can be done, and some kind of training, grooming for all the people who are in leadership roles,
Leadership.
in
Yes, definitely.
managerial roles, supervisory roles, handling teams,
Hmm.
they should actually be trained, be guided around the importance of having control on their emotions, having
Hmm.
being more mindful in their approach with their teams. Then half the problems of the world would be
Yeah,
solved,
definitely.
you know.
Definitely.
So
Yeah.
we have seen both sides. In fact, I have seen the very early juncture of my career, two kind of people who handle situations.
Hmm.
So there was one supervisor who was very friendly, very inspiring, very
Hmm.
good to work with,
Hmm.
and he used to take out time for every individual, understand how their performance is,
Hmm. Hmm.
and it was not review, it was more like helping,
Hmm.
the mentor,
Hmm.
like
Hmm.
how to go
Hmm.
about it. And then there was another person who came from one of the best B schools in the country, and he was extremely, he was harsh to the entire team.
Hmm.
He was not very considerate. And finally, what we saw later on, what we got to know later on, is that the person who was much more considerate did way better in his career, in spite of
Hmm.
other, things he was lacking, than the
Hmm.
person who came from that with that huge tag around him.
Right. Hmm.
So finally, what actually works in organization is how leaders, treat people,
Hmm.
and how work-life balance actually unfolds is basis how much empowerment is there in the
Hmm.
hands of each employee.
Definitely, definitely.
Yeah.
I'll also just like to add, besides the organizational thing, there might be times when, as as a person who's probably watching it, might be going through their
Yeah.
own
Yeah.
personal crisis, and like we talked about these conditionings and these ideas of worth and fears.
Mm.
So many people do have these fears which they carry, and that affects every
Yeah.
aspect of their
Yeah.
life. For such people, I definitely say that if you feel that it's not really about the work, it's not really about the people around you, but it's something that you are going through, it is important to seek
Yeah.
professional help. It is important to identify even those factors.
Yeah, yeah. In fact, I was just coming to it because I think somewhere we as a platform, we are trying to make it very, in spite of the fact that we are a social networking platform where at the core is soul searching,
Hmm.
like understanding myself.
Hmm.
We are trying to make it very, it's okay not
Hmm.
to be okay.
Hmm.
It's okay to seek help, because help doesn't really always mean that it's something very serious with me. It can
Right.
be something very trivial also, and just a little way forward
Hmm.
can help me with a clear mind. And that is the reason why we have this entire expert advisory services,
Hmm. Hmm.
which just doesn't cover subjects around relationship,
Hmm.
but it also covers subjects around cognitive behavior. It covers subjects around communication, mindfulness, self mastery with my own vision, with my own goals, understanding myself better, topics around emotional intelligence,
Hmm.
how to use it in our daily lives at workplaces, And I think and just not the internal aspect, we also have certain things around grooming, the external aspect, how we add more dosage of confidence just by looking a certain way, and that can also have a very positive effect on our mindset. So we have this entire plethora of expert services, and we are trying to make it it's okay, just come and just reach out to someone, if you want. So similarly over here, as we come to this discussion's end, I would ask all the people, if you have any questions around something more around what is kind of bothering you around work-life balance. If you feel that the struggle is real, please write back to us. I'll just give the number so that you can write to us. Just a second. It's 9830502427. So you can DM us on this number, and once you DM us with a query, I am sure we can write back to you. Do mention your email ID so that we can write back to you with an answer from our expert. And thank you so much, Richa. So I'm so happy that we could kind of do this session, and this is like something very close to my heart, because I have always tried to voice this, and today when we did this session, it felt very apt at that moment where there is so much of debate and discussion around everything. So I am sure the people who spoke, they spoke from their vision, they spoke from their thought processes about building a bigger organization, building capable teams. But when it comes to individuals, for us, it is for each one of us to decide what is best suited for us, what makes us happy at the end of the day, and finally, what are those goals we are aiming for.
Yes.
Right? So I think I summed it up, right?
Definitely you have.
Yes. And thank you so much, Richa. I really enjoyed this session, and I'm so happy to have you with us on our platform. And please, guys, do reach out to Richa's. Do follow her. She is an excellent, speaker, just not a speaker, a therapist, a counselor, a clinical psychologist. She has her own organization, so I'm sure she'll be of immense help. Plus, you can reach out to her through us. So I've already given her the number. I'm sure she'll be willing to kind of throw in some more light, something which we have missed out probably because we have a small limited amount of time. And thank you so much. I really love this discussion.
Same way. Lovely talking.
Thank you.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.